Developing tonight, President Trump spent part of the holiday thanking the men and women serving our country. But not everybody was so thrilled with his message. Take a listen here and decide for yourself.
We're really winning. We know how to win, but we have to let you win. They weren't letting you win before.
We have been winning. You're talking to soldiers and military personnel around the world who have been in this fight for 17 years, and to suddenly be told that they're winning now when they weren't winning before is somewhat insulting.
Here now, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Waltz. He is a former Green Beret commander and a Fox News contributor. Good to see you, sir. Were you offended at all in any way, shape, or form by what the president said?
Yeah, you know, look, with full respect for the general service, I couldn't disagree more. I think morale has soared within the military under President Trump because, frankly, they're now being allowed to do their job, and they know the president is behind them and fighting for the resources they need to fight this global war against Islamic extremism. But Trish, let's take a moment and compare with the last 8 years where I think morale was terrible and folks were offended. Let's look at under President Obama, constant talk of withdrawal from Iraq, and actual withdrawal from Iraq, and talk of withdrawal from Afghanistan, ignoring the genocide in Syria while Americans were being beheaded on international television, trading the top 5 Taliban commanders in Guantanamo Bay for a deserter. You know, these things were not good for morale, and what also wasn't good for morale was being micromanaged from Susan Rice's desk when they're out there trying to fight a war. So, you know, I think we couldn't see a bigger contrast now to the president of the United States and President Trump saying, you're out there to win. I'm going to give you a strategy and the resources to win, and we're going to defeat Islamic extremism around the world and our near-peer adversaries like China, Russia, and others that are trying to encroach on American leadership worldwide.
Colonel, it sounds like what you're saying, though, is that many members of the military would have felt exactly that what he was saying was, in fact, just the reality of the situation. In other words, for the last 8 years, they were hindered. They weren't able to win. They weren't given the tools. They weren't given the support.
They were fighting with their hand behind their backs. They were literally fighting with their hands tied, and, you know, they had to go back, you know, all the way back to Washington to ask permission to be able to do their job, whether it was pilots looking to drop bombs or commanders on the ground having to worry about over-restrictive rules of engagement. Look, we even had 3 defense secretaries under President Obama complain about the mistrust of the military. Again, let's contrast that now where you have President Trump, who surrounded himself with some of the military's most respected generals in Kelly and Mattis and McMaster, and said, you know what, I'm going to provide the vision. You guys do your job like I know you're trained to do. That in itself is a massive morale boost for the military going forward.
It's what a good manager does. It's what a good CEO does. You empower your people. You put good people around you.
That's right.
You trust them to do the right thing. But we're also looking at a fundamental shift, a fundamental difference in the approach to our military, aren't we, Colonel?
Yeah.
In other words, this is a president who's saying, look, if we're going to go in somewhere, we better be prepared. We better have what we need, and we better do what we're going to do.
That's right. Well, let's just take what we're doing now in Afghanistan, right? So, you know, we heard year after year after year. I was a combat commander on the ground of Special Forces, and when you hear on the ground, withdraw, 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 your enemies wait you out, and no one works with you. And instead, in the president's Afghanistan strategy now, it's we're going to stay until the job is done. And oh, by the way, we're taking our gloves off. You know, the military's taking the gloves off, so enemies, you better be on notice. Same thing with Iran, same thing with North Korea, you know, and then more broadly, he's accused of kind of being somewhat of a warmonger or exacerbating the situation. Diplomacy must have the credible threat of military force to work. Otherwise, people won't come to the table to talk. So I think, again, he's surrounded himself with a great team. He's setting the strategy, and now he's fighting with Congress to get the resources our military needs.
Colonel, good to see you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much.